So it's wintertime and you're probably thinking about some projects to do on your dirt bike, and the very best thing you could do this winter before the riding season starts is put new rubber on your bike. This is probably my favorite topic to talk about, at least one of my favorite topics, because there is no better bang for the buck that you can do than put new tires on your dirt bike. I have talked about it many, many times on this channel for the past 10 years. And it is literally the best bang for the buck you can do. So you can spend $1,000 on some like aftermarket part, like some maybe, you know, head or ECU or some other mod, and even suspension. And I'm not saying it's not a good idea to spend money in some of these places. Like getting your bike set up for you for the right weight and the right suspension for the things you want to do is very important. However, that said, most of us are spending way too much time on our rear tires and maybe even the front tires too, and you can improve the capability and the performance of your bike so much by putting new tires on there. It is the cheapest upgrade that you can do. At this point, I really don't go much over 20 hours on any tire. Part of that is because I'm using these hybrid gummy tires now a lot. It's pretty much exclusively all I use on the rear, and they're just softer compounds. So I want to go through today and show you some of the tires that I really, really like for the rear and for the front. I don't have visual aids of some of them here in the shop right now. I've got a couple visual aids, but there are other ones I'll just put up here on the screen. Also, I buy almost everything I have from Rocky Mountain ATV. I'm one of their affiliates, and if you use the link down in the video description, or if you click on my website, if you go to my website, dirtbikechannel.com, one of those links is Shop Rocky Mountain ATV. If you click on those links, then you can buy anything they sell, and it really helps to support what we're doing here on the program to continue to offer, you know, sweepstakes bikes and things like that. So let's get into it. What are some of my favorite rear tires? Well, I'm holding it right here. See, on the Beta, I've got to start with, this is probably the longest lasting, quote, hybrid gummy tire that I'm aware of. And it's not the softest tire, but I think it offers a really, really good mix of longevity and performance. You can get a tire that's long lasting, especially on the rears. Your tire either is going to be long lasting but not good performing, or good performing but not long lasting. And I'm more in the camp, and I have been for a long time, of I want a really good performing tire. I don't care if it lasts a long time. I want it to perform really well. And that's where this IRC VE33S Dakota comes in. Probably the longest lasting, quote, hybrid gummy tire that I'm aware of. Sometimes these can last as much as 30 hours. By that point, I'm definitely swapping it. But it's a really good mix, and it has a stiff carcass, which is one of the things I really like about the tire. And I use tubeless with all these tires, and this one will hold plugs really well. I do have one tire here that I say I don't trust it that well with tubeless because it doesn't hold plugs good. But the IRC VE33S Dakota does that really, really well. Another favorite tire that I don't have here in the shop right now is the Shinko 520 DC. DC stands for dual compound, and on that tire, it has some really harder knobs on the side for the side knobs, and then softer compound in the middle on the main parts of the tread, and it's really fantastic. I love that tire. Has really good braking action, good acceleration, good traction, and it's just a really, really fun tire. It also will hold plugs fairly well if you're running tubeless. If you're running tubes, you know, any of these tires can work with tubeless or moose bibs. Some of them don't work as well with tubeless, and since I'm a tubeless guy, I have to kind of just throw that caveat out there. So this Shinko 520 DC is a real favorite of mine. Another in the Shinko line is the Shinko 525 cheater. They have a Shinko 505 cheater. I don't like that one as much. It's kind of like the grandfather of these hybrid gummy tires, but the 525 is more of a knobby tire, more similar to like the knobbies that I'm used to running, and the Shinko 525 is great. It's a little heavy, but it's a fun tire. Another one that I'm just absolutely in love with here recently is this Tusk Talon over here. This is a really fun tire to run. It's Rocky Mountain ATV's brand, the Talon. It's super affordable, and it's also a very soft compound. The only thing I don't love about it as much is it's more of an FIM tread pattern where the treads aren't quite as tall to begin with as, excuse me, like what a traditional knobby would be. Like the IRC VE33S has a taller knob to it. But the Shinko, or I mean the Tusk Talon over here, it's a softer compound, and so it gets really good grip. I really love that. So that's a fun one. If you haven't tried the Tusk line, go ahead and do that. I absolutely love it. And then last of the rear tires that I want to talk about, this is the Dunlop AT81EX. So a lot of the tires that come on these off-road bikes are the Dunlop AT81. The EX is, I don't know if it stands for like extreme or whatever, but it has a very, very soft compound. And this tire gets crazy good performance for about 7 or 8 hours, maybe up to 10 hours. The problem is it doesn't hold plugs very well. And so the carcass isn't just stiff enough where a lot of times if I get a plug or if I get a puncture on this and I'm running tubeless, it's hard to get a plug to hold in this tire, so I don't trust it as much. But good gravy. It gets such great performance when you're just riding the bike. So, and it's come down in price too. I'll throw up the prices of all these things as you'll have seen. Obviously over here, I've got a Trials tire on this Trials bike. I typically don't run Trials tires on trail rides, but I know some people do, and I just wanted to throw that out there. I just brought it up here as a visual aid. Let's spin these bikes around and talk a little bit about front tires. You know, it's kind of funny. The front tires have never been as exciting to me as the rear tires. And I'll run a front tire longer than I'll run a rear tire, but the telltale sign that I'm looking for is when the side knobs start to break, or if I start to see any like separation of a knob, that's when I'm like, okay, this tire is done. And a lot of times I'll see it on the side knobs. It feels like they get a lot of pressure on the side knobs. As if you're cornering and like if you're kind of climbing up out of ruts and things, even on single track or whatever, I feel like the side knobs are where a lot of the stress happens, as I've noticed this over time. I don't have any technical data for that, I've just noticed. And so, yeah, sometimes I'll run a front tire, for quite a bit longer, maybe 50% longer than I'll run a rear tire, but I'm just watching for that. You never wear out a front tire. You just like wear it down a little bit and then you're watching for the side knobs to be breaking off. So one of my favorite tires, maybe my favorite tire for a long, long, long time, has been the Bridgestone M59. It's a very narrow tire. I like my front tires to be narrow. This only comes in an 80-100. Sorry, I had to cut there because my heat turned on and it was going to be super loud. This tire only comes in an 80-121. It's a very narrow tire, but it's a very sharp tire as far as like how it handles and how precise it is, at least how I feel. The downside of this is it's quite expensive, and it feels like it's getting more and more expensive all the time. An alternative to that tire, which is also very, very similar in tread pattern, almost basically identical, is the Bridgestone X31. It's right over here. It's very hard to tell the difference in this tire and how it performs. And I'll be honest, I don't notice as much on the front tires. I'm maybe just not quite as adept at noticing that. But the X31 is a very good alternative to it, and I believe it's a little bit cheaper. I'll roll the price up, right now as we're going through this. Another tire that I don't have in the shop, in fact, I got two more front tires I want to talk about that I do not have here in the shop, but I've had good luck with in the past. The first one is the IRC IX09W. That's a really good tire. And I think it handles very similar to these tires. It's very good. You'll notice that I'm more of a narrow tire guy, the narrow front tires. Usually even on the rears, I'm like a 110-100. Sometimes I'll do the 120, which is wider, a 120-100. But anytime they get into the 130s and the 140s, I'm just like, this is too wide. I don't know. I just don't love them as much. And especially on the front tires, I like them to be narrower and sharp and things like that. So the IX09W is very good for that. And the last one I want to talk about is a little bit more of a fat tire, and I wanted to have at least one fatter tire. And this is the Shinko 546, okay? I've said this in the past before, I like it better in the desert than I do in the mountains. Feels like in the mountains, I'm needing sometimes more precise placement. Whereas in the desert, it depends. I mean, obviously it all depends, but the Shinko 546, I think, is a good fit for that. Works really well with tubeless. All these front tires that I've talked about work really well with tubeless. Obviously, they'll work with tubes and they'll work with, say moose bibs or whatever. But those are four tires that I really like. The Shinko being the widest of the bunch, because I think it's like it only comes in like a 90-100. There may be some other sizes, but it's just a little bit wider, more of a fatty. Some people like the fatty front tires, and it's just a total preference. There's no right or wrong here. And you'll also notice they have, you know, a lot of these front tires have really good braking action. I haven't noticed some that, you know, and even the tires that come on the bikes, like typically you're gonna get like a Dunlop AT81 on the front, or you'll get like a Dunlop MX34 or MX33 or whatever. And they're not bad. Like, they're not bad tires. I just don't like them as much as these. And the reason why I've got the Bridgestone the Bridgestone M59 on this, and the Shinko, the IRC VE33S Dakota, especially on this new bike. I haven't even ridden this Beta 250RR yet. But I have enough experience on those tires that I want to remove all the variables, as many of the variables that I can. And knowing these tires very well and how they react, then I'm like, I'm going to put this tire on this bike, and then it's like my comfort zone. It's like the home base for me, if that makes sense. And then I'm just, anything that I'm feeling on the bike, I can't blame it on the tires. Then I'm like, this is the suspension, this is how the chassis, you know. And so this is like a review tire. The M59 is one of my review tires. The, you know, VE33S Dakota is one of my review tires. But I've had the Tusk Talons enough, like I'm good with that, you know, to be a review tire. I've got the Tusk Talon on 2 bikes over there that were just awarded as giveaway bikes that we haven't been able to like get to the people yet. It's happening. What else did I want to say? Yeah, these are these 2 bikes are going to be the sweepstakes bikes for March. So the Beta 250RR and the KTM 250XC. It will not have the cone valve suspension on it when it's given away, but these bikes are going to be given away in essentially this form. And they won't have that many hours on them because I just haven't been able to ride a lot. Haven't ridden at all in the month of January. I probably shouldn't admit that, but that's true. At least I don't think I have. But yeah, it's been cold and nasty, and I've been doing other things, other projects. So that gives you an idea of what tires I kind of like. There's a lot of good tires out there. There's no rights or wrongs, but it's just nice for me to be able to like have all this in a video and be able to send this out. Because I hadn't talked about tires for a few years, as far as like in a video just like this, I don't think. So these are some of the tires that I love. If you want to support what we're doing, please use the links right down here in the video description for Rocky Mountain ATV, or I've got Amazon links down there too. But if you go to my website, dirtbikechannel.com, there's a shop Rocky Mountain ATV link. And then after you click those links, you can buy anything they sell, anything. I sometimes have some lists and things on there of some of the products I've used in the past, but you don't have to buy any of the stuff I'm talking about. Click the link and then buy anything you want: tires, tools, gear, all the stuff, oil, anything that they sell. It's pretty much impossible to beat Rocky Mountain ATV on price and selection and service. Free shipping over $75, I believe. And yeah, so anyway, thanks so much for watching. And if you have any questions, send me an email. It's Kyle@dirtbikechannel.com. And until next time, leave a single track. Thanks.